Story number 1. The Child in the Vents.
It came in as a noise complaint. Third floor, Maplewood Apartments. Neighbors reporting a child crying, drifting from unit to unit like some kind of ghost. Management told dispatch there were no kids on that floor. I'd been there before. Mostly retirees and single tenants. The kind of people who called about everything. Broken mailboxes, flickering hallway lights, suspicious footsteps at 2 a.m. that turned out to be the building settling. But this was different. The hallway was hot, stale, smelled like dust baked into carpet that hadn't been replaced since the Reagan administration. The kind of building where the AC never quite worked, where maintenance requests disappeared into some bureaucratic void. I knocked on the first caller's door, Unit 304. The tenant cracked it open just enough to whisper, "You hear it too." I didn't, not at first. Just the hum of that dying fluorescent light, the kind that flickers every few seconds, casting shadows that seem to move when they shouldn't. Then, faint, from a vent grill halfway down the corridor, the sound of a kid sobbing. Thin, high-pitched, just a few broken notes of what might have been a lullaby between the cries. I followed the sound. Training kicks in, you know, even when your gut's telling you to walk away. The vent was waist level, cover rusted around the screws like it hadn't been touched in years. When I leaned close, it sounded like someone humming right into my ear, not muffled like it should have been through ducts and insulation. Direct, intimate, wrong. I keyed up dispatch. They logged it. No missing kids in the area, no Amber Alerts. My partner was tied up across town with a domestic, so it was just me and whatever was making that sound. I knocked on the nearest unit, 306. The door had at least 4 deadbolts. The elderly woman inside she'd taped over her peephole weeks ago, black electrical tape applied in layers. "They keep looking in," she whispered through the chain lock. "Who?" I asked. "Who is looking in?" She just shook her head, and I heard all 4 deadbolts slide home. The crying moved again, now from 2 vents at once, farther down the hall. Same exact sobbing cadence, like an audio loop someone kept rewinding and playing back. I pulled my multi-tool, popped one of the grills, had to use some force. The screws were painted over, hadn't been removed in God knows how long. Inside, a baby monitor receiver, one of those old ones with the extending antenna. Fresh batteries. I could see the Duracell logo, still bright. Volume was set low. But here's the thing that made my skin crawl. When I tilted it toward the light, I realized it wasn't even switched on. The power indicator was dark. Had been for who knows how long. The crying stopped. Complete silence. Even that fluorescent light seemed to hold its breath. Then, from behind me, from the vent I'd already passed, the one I'd turned my back on, came a breathy whisper. 2 words, stretched thin like someone running out of air. "Don't. Leave." I left anyway. Back at the precinct, I cleared the call, wrote "unfounded noise complaint" in neat block letters, tossed the report in my log, and tried not to think about those 2 words following me down that hallway. But that night, lying in bed at 2:47 a.m., my bathroom fan clicked on by itself. Old house, faulty wiring, happens all the time. Except through the hum of that motor, just faint enough to doubt, I heard that same broken lullaby, sung out of order, like somebody forgot the words. Like somebody had been trying to remember them for a very, very long time.
Story number 2. The Welfare Check.
It came in as a welfare check. Rural county road, 12 miles outside town limits. Neighbor hadn't seen the guy in 3 days. Asked us to knock on his door, make sure he was breathing. Nothing unusual about that. Calls like this stack up every week in rural patrol, especially winter. People get snowed in, phones go out, families worry. But the timing was bad. Just before dawn, 4:47 a.m. Snow still falling in sheets so thick you couldn't see your own headlights reflecting back. Roads half plowed, half iced over from the overnight freeze. I almost called it in as delayed by weather. Standard protocol. Wait for daylight, wait for the plows. But I was already halfway down County Road 47, and turning around on black ice seemed worse than pressing forward. The house was a tired-looking single-story ranch, probably built in the 70s. White siding gone gray from decades of weather. The driveway was packed with snow, untouched. His truck sat there like a monument, hood buried under a foot of powder, windows frosted solid white, the kind of thick, crystalline frost that takes days to build up, not hours, days. I killed the engine, and the silence hit me like a wall. No wind, no distant traffic, just that muffled quiet that only comes with heavy snow. The back door was braced shut with a kitchen chair wedged under the handle. I could see it through the window, yellow formica, probably older than I was. On the counter, a coffee cup, white ceramic, handle turned toward the door like someone left-handed had set it down. The coffee was long cold, but the ring stain on the ceramic looked fresh, wet almost. That detail stuck with me, still does. Like someone had poured it, taken maybe one sip, then walked out and never came back. That's when I saw the tracks. Boot prints in the snow. Size 10, maybe 10 and a half. Deep treads, work boots, the kind with aggressive grip patterns. They led straight from the back porch across the yard in a perfectly straight line. Deliberate spacing, even depth. You could almost picture the rhythm of each step. Step, step, step. I followed them, my own boots crunching loud in the silence. 40 yards across the backyard, past a rusted swing set, past a woodpile covered in a blue tarp, right out to County Road 47. And that's where they stopped. Not turned around, not veered off into the ditch, not continued across to the other side. Just ended.
20 feet of perfect boot prints in virgin snow, and then clean blacktop. Like whoever made them had simply vanished into thin air. My stomach dropped. Training kicks in. Footprints can drift in wind, get filled by blowing snow. Ice can obscure tracks on asphalt. But there was nothing. No disturbance, no tire tracks, no animal sign. I know what snow looks like when it's hiding something. This wasn't that. This was clean. Impossibly clean. I circled the property, looking for answers. Checked the windows, all locked from inside. Front door, dead-bolted, chain-latched. Behind the house sat a small storage shed. That's where I found the second set of tracks. Smaller prints this time, maybe size 7. They started at the shed door and went around the building, just once, a perfect circle, like someone pacing or performing some kind of ritual. Then they ended too, right where they started, no trail leading away. The shed door was unlocked. Inside smelled of kerosene and cold metal. Tools hung neat on pegboard walls. A workbench ran along the back, everything organized like the owner actually used this space. A camping lantern sat on the workbench. Glass chimney blackened with soot, wick burned down to nothing, but the metal base was still warm to the touch. On the concrete floor, a rope, thick hemp, maybe quarter-inch diameter, laid out in a perfect circle, about 6 feet across. The ends were tied together with a bowline knot, neat, professional, like someone who knew their rope work. And right in the center of that circle sat a seat cushion, floral pattern, the kind you'd find on an old kitchen chair. I put my hand on it. Still warm. That was the moment I decided I didn't want to know more.
Some investigations you push forward because it's your job. Some investigations your gut tells you to walk away. This was the second kind. I backed out of that shed real slow, my boots echoing off the concrete. Closed the door, walked back to my cruiser without looking at those tracks again. I wrote the call as unfounded, property secure, no signs of distress. Sometimes people just leave, go visit family, forget to tell the neighbors. Happens all the time. At least that's what I told myself. Later that shift, the county snowplow footage came in. Standard procedure. They record everything for liability. Dash cameras were iced over, useless, but the audio was crystal clear. At mile marker 47.3, right by that house, you can hear something under the engine noise. Faint, but distinct. A voice. Male. Older. First, it says my unit number, Unit 74. Then, clear as day, it says, Officer Smith. The timestamp shows 6:23 a.m., exactly when I was following those tracks across the yard. But I never keyed up my radio, never spoke to anyone. 2 nights later, I walked out to my cruiser after shift. Fresh snow had fallen during my tour, maybe 2 inches of powder on everything. Clean, undisturbed. Except my cruiser. Right in the middle of the hood, pressed deep into the snow like someone had stepped down hard, was a single boot print. Size 10, same aggressive tread pattern I'd followed that morning. But there were no other prints. Nothing leading up to it. Nothing leading away. Just that one mark, like someone had dropped out of the sky, stepped once, and vanished again.
Story number 3. The car that asked for help.
It started as a traffic stop. 2-lane arterial, drizzle hanging in the air like mist, 2:03 a.m. on a Tuesday that felt like it would never end. Black sedan in front of me, newer model, clean plates, tapped its left blinker 3 times, paused, then flashed hazards twice in quick succession. Not random, deliberate. Not the kind of thing you ignore when you've been on patrol long enough to recognize patterns. Some drivers use sequences like that to flag distress when they can't pull over safely, when something's wrong but they can't say what. I hit the blues, pulled them over onto the shoulder. Asphalt was slick with rain, shining like black glass under my cruiser's headlights. Steam lifted off the blacktop where the warm pavement met the cold drizzle, mixing with the fog rolling in off the interstate. The kind of night where visibility drops to maybe 50 feet and every shadow could be hiding something. Driver's window rolled down, just a crack, maybe 2 inches, enough to pass documents through but not enough for conversation. His hands gripped the steering wheel at perfect 10 and 2 position like they'd taught him in driver's ed 20 years ago. Knuckles bone white, tendons standing out like cables under tension. He stared straight ahead through the windshield, didn't turn to acknowledge me, didn't say a word, not even when I announced myself as police. That's when I saw it. Passenger side visor was flipped down, angled toward the windshield. Clipped to the fabric with a silver binder clip was a sheet of notebook paper, the kind kids use in school. Someone had written across it in thick black Sharpie, all caps, letters pressed so hard they'd torn through the paper in places, "Don't say help, they're listening." My stomach went cold. Every instinct I'd developed in 8 years of patrol started screaming. This wasn't a routine traffic stop anymore. Training kicked in hard. Separate the driver from the vehicle, establish control of the situation, assume threat until proven otherwise. I asked for license and registration, keeping my voice calm and routine, like I hadn't seen that note. He passed them through that crack in the window with hands shaking so bad I could hear his wedding ring tapping against the glass. His eyes were pinned to nothing, eyes bloodshot like he'd been crying or hadn't slept in days. But when I asked the standard, "Is everything okay tonight?" he didn't answer.
Instead, his eyes, just his eyes, not his head, flicked quick toward the back seat. That glance told me everything. Someone else was supposed to be in that car. I motioned him out, kept my flashlight angled low to catch the rear passenger windows without being obvious about it. Couldn't see anything back there through the tint, just my own reflection bouncing back, distorted by the drizzle catching my beam. When he finally stepped clear of the vehicle, moving slow like every joint hurt, he leaned just close enough to whisper, without moving his lips much. They told me if I said anything, they'd kill her. His voice was hoarse, used up. I asked, "Who? Who told you that?" But he shut down completely. Wouldn't look at me again, just stared at his shoes like they held the answers to questions I didn't know how to ask. Standard practice for suspicious circumstances: clear the vehicle, secure any potential threats. I drew my service weapon, approached the rear passenger door with proper angles and sightlines. The door was unlocked. I pulled it open, expecting... Hell, I don't know what I expected. What I found was nothing. Empty back seat. Floor mats still damp with rainwater, smelled like mildew and something else I couldn't place. Sweet, almost, like flowers left too long in stagnant water. Then the trunk popped. By itself. No one touched the release, no key fob pressed, just the hydraulic arms lifting, slow and deliberate, like the car was daring me to look inside, like it wanted to show me something.
I approached with my weapon ready, flashlight cutting through the drizzle. Inside the trunk was nothing. No duffel bag, no weapon, no person, living or dead, just spare tire, jack, jumper cables. And sitting right in the center, placed there like someone wanted me to find it, was a prepaid flip phone. Old model, Nokia or something similar, plastic casing scratched and worn like it had seen years of use. The phone started vibrating the second I leaned in to get a better look. Screen lit up blue-white with an incoming call, that old-school ringtone cutting through the night silence. But here's what made my blood freeze. The caller ID read Unit 12. My unit number. Someone was calling that phone from my own patrol car. I didn't answer. Couldn't make myself reach for it. Just stared at that screen until the call went to whatever passes for voicemail on a burner phone. The vibrating stopped, screen went dark, and the night got quiet again, except for the drizzle hitting my hat and the distant hum of interstate traffic. I impounded the vehicle, logged the phone as evidence, filled out a report that took me 40 minutes because how do you write "car's trunk opened by itself" in official language? The driver, turned out his name was Marcus Chen, 42, worked in accounting, clean record except a speeding ticket from 2019, swore up and down that a second vehicle had been following him for the last 30 miles. Dark SUV, no plates visible, forcing him to use the blink pattern because they'd threatened his wife if he tried to flag down help any other way. Said they told him to drive to a specific location, keep his mouth shut, and someone would contact him with instructions. By the time I'd pulled him over, that other vehicle was gone. No plates, no witnesses, no traffic cam footage from that stretch of road. Just Marcus, that note, and a flip phone that shouldn't have been able to call my unit radio. The report went in as suspicious circumstances, unfounded. Sometimes that's all you can do with the weird ones. But the phone didn't stay in evidence. Next shift, 3 days later, I walked into the precinct at 11 p.m. to start my tour. Sergeant was already briefing day shift, coffee was fresh in the break room, everything normal. Except sitting right in the center of my desk blotter was that same prepaid flip phone, dead battery. No explanation for how it got there. I asked around, night desk sergeant, evidence clerk, custodial staff. No one admitted putting it there. Security footage for the squad room was mysteriously corrupted for a 6-hour window that afternoon. I powered it up with a charger from the supply closet. When the screen came to life, I checked the call log. Last received call logged at 2:03 a.m., 3 days ago.
exact time of the traffic stop. Caller ID, Unit 12. But here's what really got me. There was also an outgoing call. Same timestamp, same number, which meant that phone had somehow called itself. Or something pretending to be me had called something pretending to be that phone.